recording. So we are now recording the meeting, so if you don't want your face to be shown, you better turn off your camera. Right, so Vanessa, what do you want to start with?
I don't want to start. I'm still eating my breakfast. Can we start with jargon?
We certainly can. So I've got a sheet of questions of bits of jargon, and so if you have a piece of paper and pencil, you can write down the answers. And I've got quite a lot of questions here, so we'll go through them quite quickly. And then at the end, I thought we could just go around everyone and they could add an extra bit of jargon that they want. So if you add an extra bit of jargon, you get a point. You don't have to answer it. So you can go and, if there's a bit of jargon you don't know what it means, you can suggest it at the end and get an extra point for it, and then we'll try and the team of experts will try and tell you what it means. Right, okay, so we should start off with a sheet. Okay, now parts of a sail. The foot. The luff. The leech. The clue. And the tack. And then, as some of us are, well, have been or are parents of children who sail optimists, I've got the ones for the optimist too. The peak, the throat, and the sprit. What's the sprit on an optimist? And also on an optimist, an additional one, what's the head? Then what's the kicking strap? What's the vang? If you were to head up, what would you do with your boat? If you were to bear away, what would you do with your boat? What is the downhaul? Then what is the Cunningham? And finally, what's the flat bit at the front of a mirror or an oppie called? So that was all I managed to think of this morning. So shall we go around? John, can you think of anything extra to add on? Okay. Come on, Simon. Any extra bit of jargon?
Oh, blimey. Kite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Horse.
Who was that?
Sorry, Roger. Horse.
Okay.
You could throw in traveller.
Oh, yeah.
Beat.
Yep.
How about auto ratchet?
Ooh, yeah. Any more? Sarah, any bits of jargon that you've heard that you don't know the answer to?
I can't think of anything, sorry.
Can I add buoyancy?
Buoyancy?
Yes.
Okay. One of those words I can never spell.
Buoyancy, I think.
It's okay, I'm too old to learn spelling. Anything more? Vanessa, have you got anything?
Chicken jibe.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, have we got enough, do you think? That's 24. Okay, so let's go through it then. Sheet. Who wants to tell me what the sheet is? But we'd start with an easy one.
Rope.
Sail. Sheet. We'll put in the sheet. No. Rope.
No.
Where's the ropes?
The rope.
Yeah. Which rope? To what?
The main sheet, the main rope.
The main.
Yeah.
Ropes that control the sails.
Yeah, that's the best one. What about the foot of the sail?
Bottom of the sail.
Bottom of the sail, yeah, that's it.
Oh.
The last,
Is the outside of the sail, which is away from the mast, so the kind of at the front of the boat. No, it's the back. No, I don't know. Oh, at the front of the boat. Oh, right. Okay. There you are.
no, it's the front of the sail. And the leech,
Won't be the back then.
it will be the back then, yes, you're right. What about the clue?
Is it the corner furthest away from the mast at the bottom?
It is, you're right, excellent. And the tack?
Corner closest to the mast.
Brilliant, yes, okay. The peak? Ah, these are ones for an optimist sail.
It was a guess, but it's a peak at the top, like on a mountain.
Peak, yeah, the peak is in fact the top of an optimist sail. Then the throat.
Is that the other part of that kind of? If you hold it up again, is it the bit that's kind of slanting downwards towards the mast? Isn't the very
Is that
top
what
bit?
you mean?
Yeah.
No, actually, that's called the head,
Oh right.
which is the yeah, a couple of questions down. So the throat is that point there.
All right.
So that's two questions, and the one in between is what's the sprit on an optimist sail?
That the pole that goes.
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, I've learned something there, Tom, because I didn't know some of those things regarding Oppie sales. So look at that. I've been educated today. Thank you.
It is true that no one knows, and actually I had to go and just check it on the internet before we started today. But I think it is quite good when you've got Oppie sailing. You might as well use the correct terminology.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite good. What about the kicking strap then?
Is that the kicker?
Yeah. What does it do?
And it pulls your boom down and keeps it
Okay.
going.
What about the vang?
The same.
So yeah, it's exactly, yes. So if you were to head up when you were sailing, what would you do?
Point towards the wind, closer to the wind.
Yeah. Okay. And bear away.
Away from the wind.
Okay. What's the cunning? Oh, what's the Cunningham? Sorry, missed the question out there, but go on.
Tightens the front of pulls the front of the sail down like a downhaul.
Yeah, and so that was the previous question, was what was the downhaul? Right.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. You've got both questions. You answered both questions at once. That's brilliant. So what is the front of a mirror or an optimist called? What's the flat bit at the front called?
It's pram shaped. That's not what it's called, is it?
No.
I mean, it's called a bow, I guess, isn't it? Like,
Well, it's the bit of wood at the front, the flat bit is called the bow transom. So that's another bit of a pure jargon. Okay, kite.
Spinnaker.
What? Spinning, yeah. Horse.
Is that the same as a traveller?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I think a horse is normally a sort of shape like that. I'm looking at John, who's as old as me and will remember when boats always had horses.
Yeah, I was going to say, normal a lot in some of the centre main boats. You've got a horse, which the main sheet travels over. It's in the centre bit of the.
I thought that had a different name actually. Do they call it a horse?
I seem to remember when I used to sail bigger boats in the RAF, the horse was basically the same as the Traveller, but it had, so there was like a block that attached it to the boom, but it had pins where you could move it across, laterally across the boat and lock it in position. Kind of like a wooden and steel version of a Traveller.
Okay, the horses I've seen have been on sort of very old dinghies that have had a sort of metal rod arrangement that had a metal fitting that slid across it.
Yeah.
Tom,
Yeah.
the horse and the Traveller are essentially the same.
Oh,
Most people refer to a horse as the setup on the back of something like a topper or a laser. So it's just that unfixed stroke, whereas the Traveller tends to be the track going across the center of the boat, like you'd find on a solo or something like that. You wouldn't necessarily call the setup in the middle a horse, but you would possibly call the setup at the aft of the boat
I thought that
Does that make sense?
That does make sense, but I thought that on a topper and a laser, they were mostly called a bridle.
Oh no, they're mostly called the Traveller, I believe.
Ah.
And the same on things like
essentially the same thing. They
It's the
cover a
same
whole
thing.
gamut of things.
It's the
So
same thing.
horse,
It's just
horse
yeah.
Traveller. Yeah, they're all much of a muchness. On Merlin, you have the option to pull the booms to windward a bit as well on the metal contraption. So, but they're all essentially the same thing.
Absolutely, and you can see that the panel of experts couldn't completely define what it was. That is the problem. And the next question was, what was a Traveller? I think we've answered that. So what's the beat?
Just sailing upwind?
Yes, yeah, normally, and the bit of the sailing where you have to essentially tack up wind, you're beating up wind.
Isn't that close hauled?
It can be, yes. That's the beauty of sailing. We have lots and lots of different words for the same thing.
Right. Okay.
I think you would describe it. You can say you are close hauled, but you are on the beat. Perhaps, I don't know, someone who's better at grammar than me. Vanessa, maybe you can.
When you're, close. I tend to say close hauled because I want to drum it into people that that's where their sail should be. But essentially, the correct expression is going to windward or beating against the wind or the beat.
Okay, the next one is auto ratchet.
I'd have thought that's any kind of wheel that will rotate in one direction only, so you can pull it, but you can't let it go, or vice versa, depending on how it's set up.
Yeah, it will automatically switch a ratchet on when it's under a certain amount of load, and you often get this on spinnaker boats. So when the load is on the spinnaker and it's quite strong, then the ratchet will automatically kick in. On some ratchet blocks, you can switch them on and off, but on some boats and quite a few spinnaker boats, you'll find they have auto ratchets to save you thinking about that. So in light winds, they'll run out fairly easily. When the wind picks up, they will start to act as a bit of a brake to hold the sheet.
So what's a ratchet?
But it's go on, Simon.
Yeah, it's just a block that when you that switches on. So when you try to let the sheet out, if you've got a ratchet on your main sheet, the block that the rope runs through, a lot of them will have ratchets on them, and that means when you pull it in, it will pull in easily. But when you try to let it go, the block locks itself automatically.
So it's the pulley.
So yeah, that's the pulley. So when you come to let your main sheet out, if the ratchet is on, it will grip the main sheet a bit for you. It takes a bit of the load off of the sheet. So in stronger winds, a lot of people will use a ratchet block or switch the ratchet on, and that just takes a bit of load on. So rather than you holding the main sheet all the time, your arms getting tired, it just reduces that load a bit. So the sheet will run out through the pulley, through the block, but the block won't actually turn itself. It will lock one way. So it just makes sailing a bit more comfortable when it gets windier.
away from sailing in mechanics, the ratchet is the thing that makes that clicking noise.
Yes, it's exactly the same
So
principle.
you'll if something's got a ratchet in it, like a screwdriver or whatever, you'll generally hear a clicking noise when you go one way.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, the next question was, what was buoyancy?
Floating, not sinking.
Yeah, it was John who said it. I'm not entirely sure what he meant by this.
It's either buoyancy tanks or buoyancy bags. The optimists have usually got buoyancy bags to keep the boat afloat if it capsizes, but a lot of boats have got built-in tanks to stop them sinking when they capsize. If you look at solos, they've definitely got buoyancy tanks.
And in theory, you should go and check your buoyancy every now and then, make sure that the hatches and things or the bags themselves aren't leaking.
Yeah. But I'm slowly running out of time, so.
Okay, chicken guy.
Tacking instead of jibing, going all the way around.
Yay!
Like 270 rather than 90.
Okay, that was it. Did anyone keep score on that?
I can just
No.
share the screen with a photo of
That's
the
it.
so
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got everything or not there.
Okay, so Vanessa,
Yes,
how's your breakfast going?
I need to log in.
I finished breakfast. I just need Nikki to log in because she has very super fast picked up some pictures for me.
Oh, right.
So we're pretty good to go. I've just got to send her the meeting link.
Because I
Oh,
want
Saturday
to,
morning, hang on, I've probably got it.
Could you just talk about how the PY system works for me?
ooh, could I? Ooh, good grief.
Because we haven't actually covered that, and we should have done.
No,
Or
you're-
maybe John could.
yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah, that might be worth it. John
Let's throw
goes,
John in at the deep end.
John goes and calculates the PY results, so we'll find out. We'll
Yeah.
find out.
Just talk about the system.
Yeah.
Got it?
The Portsmouth yardstick or Portsmouth number list is designed so that everyone can race on the water at the same time, and their results are worked according to the speed of the boat.
Yeah, I can say
They are. The faster the boat, the lower the number. For sake of argument, the Phantom, which sails at our club, sails off 1004. If, for sake of argument, there's an Optimist sailing, that will come out at 1685, I think it is. Where are we? What? No, 1642. It's dropped down. But it's calculated so that, for sake of argument, a boat sails for an hour, the Optimist, for sake of argument, then the Phantom would sail for about 38 minutes, I think it is. It might be less, more or less, but it's worked out on that different numbers. It's calculated by multiplying
Put them all in a folder.
number of seconds, get
Can
the
you-
number
can
of
you go back
seconds
to
and
the-
then divide it
Yeah.
by the handicap
What time
number.
the time? Sound?
Multiply by 1,000, you get a number. If anyone looks at the results on the club website, they will see the times that are needed to include the boats. They need to sail faster to beat the first boat most of the time. I put up on there.
John, can I suggest you reverse that to describe a pursuit race? Because that's a much easier, I think it's a much easier way to kind of describe how the handicap system works. It's easier to kind of understand on a pursuit race.
Sorry, what did you say?
I say perhaps it's worth discussing a pursuit race and how that works, because that's kind of easier to understand the timings on the handicaps. Do you think?
Possibly. I'm going to put something up and show you something on it if I can.
Okay.
Let's see if I can share my screen. Where are we?
The trouble with the handicap system is it always seems like a bit of a black art. It is worth, if you get a chance, acting as the assistant race officer, certainly when we're all back to normal, because that you suddenly understand how the system works, and actually it is relatively easy to calculate. Well, relatively easy when you don't have a whole lot of people waiting outside the race box to get their results.
Shall I just go through and you explain them? That'd be
Yeah.
Right.
I've got a few of some doubled up. I just need to see the list again in case there's a few
If you
pictures of a quick look.
if you look at the fast fleet, which I'm showing at the moment, the first laser corrected
Find one in there.
corrected time was 46 minutes and 59
That's
seconds.
right, okay.
Supernova,
John, that's really quite small. There's no chance you could make it bigger, is there?
oh heck, hang on. See what I can do.
Control plus, if it's Windows, should do the trick.
Let's go back to my screen. No,
You just want one of each.
no, I don't seem to be able to get it bigger at the moment.
Which enterprise do you want? That one, that one? Yeah.
No. I'm not able to get it any bigger at the moment.
But you can always go and have a look at this on the
Yeah.
club website, of course.
Yeah,
Phantom.
it comes up under results on the left-hand side of the club website screen.
We're not going to do zero. Better?
That one's fine. The one there is fine.
Not this one. Yeah, not so descriptive, is it?
But that
Laser. Yeah.
the number, the Portsmouth yardstick number, does it make your time? Let's say I
Solo. Do you want a better solo?
finish. It takes me 10 minutes. The PYC number, does that make my time go up or does it make it go down? If take it as just a number that so it equalises everyone's time.
It equalises them, yeah.
So would my 10 minutes go down or would it go up?
Sorry, who was that talking? I didn't catch.
Graham. I'm just wondering, like, if you had a handicap system in a road race, you might, I don't know how golf works, but if you were, let's say, if you were running 10K, one person might do it in an hour and one person might do it in half an hour. And if you had a handicap system where you multiply that by some, I'm just wondering, does the number go up or does it go down? So the final, my kind of net result.
Yeah, if you look,
if I did it in 10 minutes.
Yeah, if you look on the 30th of August result, you'll see the D0 that Gavin was sailing. His elapsed time was 30 minutes and 20 seconds. He's got a PY of 10:29. His corrected time was 29 minutes and 29 seconds. Whereas the laser that finished in 31:31 had a corrected time of 28:39. It is PY's 1100. So it does work. The faster the boat, the more you've got to be ahead of the slower boats.
So as the number goes up, as the boat gets slower, you're dividing by the PY number, not multiplying by it.
Yeah.
So if you actually have a PY number that is under
under
1,000,
yeah,
your time would go up, not down. Actually, it is a bit because they actually say that how the PY works is you're meant to multiply by 1,000 and then divide by the PY number because the numbers are thing. So you could just think instead of, oh, I'll shut up actually because it's just too complicated that. But yeah. I just put a decimal point in it when I'm doing it on a calculator.
Yeah, I don't tend to multiply by 1,000. I just put the first four numbers in when I'm doing it on the calculator, as you say. At the clubhouse, we've actually got a Ready Retina, which does it for you. You look at the time on the Ready Retina for the race officer, and it shows you what the corrected time is.
Okay, and just so Nikki knows, I have in fact muted you because we could hear you and Vanessa talking. I can't unmute you now. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Anything else on P-wise?
I mean, the trouble with PYs is there's always a bit of controversy about what your PY number is. The RYA go and allocate the PY numbers every year according to the returns from the previous year. So as boats develop, their PY number might change, but there's always a bit of controversy about this.
Yeah.
You animated.
There's regular change. They change it every year from the 1st of March. They do.
Can I ask a really stupid question? If you've, it doesn't really matter then if you get your old saggy sail out or a brand new sail, your PY number is the same, isn't it?
That's correct. Yes.
Can I answer that one?
Go on.
So Claire, sorry, that wasn't Claire, was it? It was Sarah. So
Yeah.
what I'm going to do now is just talk about how you choose your boat according to where you sail. And also for some boats, there is another PY list that you can use. So if you've got a really old boat, which I have lots of, you can use a classic and vintage PY, which adjusts to the age of your boat. But we won't go into that too much, but it makes allowances for the age of your boat, your equipment, and so on.
Okay.
So
particularly, I mean, one of the troubles is I don't think the club or clubs normally go and use those PY numbers.
No, but we're talking about racing at hunts, and when I've asked in the past, I've always been told I would be able to use those.
Yeah, I was going to say that at hunts, the old Merlins use the old numbers, and I think there are other classes that do that.
So when you choose a boat, you need to think about things like, first of all, your budget. I run a group on Facebook called Dinghy and Boat Advice, and one of the questions we get asked the most is, what boat should I buy?
Vanessa, just hang on a second. Jane is saying she can't see your face.
So that's a good thing.
It is a good thing, but she can't lip read.
Oh, 1 second.
Oh, no, you can just have that facing you. So.
Can't you see me now? Can you see me now? Thumbs up.
Hang on.
Can you see me now, Jane? Put your thumb up.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay. So when you choose a boat, you need to factor in things like how much you've got to spend, where you're going to sail, and also how fit you are and how much you weigh. And the reason for how much you weigh is, if you look at the picture, you can see people sitting out over the side of the boat, and what they're doing is counterbalancing their sail area. If you're not heavy enough to do that, you're going to have a really miserable time. If you're too light, if you're too heavy for your boat, you're going to have an equally miserable time. So it's really important when you choose a boat to choose one that fits your size and your capability. The other thing that's important is that you choose a boat that fits your sailing area, so one that fits the size of your water. There's no point trying to buy a super fast zappy boat to sail at hunts, because again, you'll have a miserable time. You'll be reaching the edge of the lake so quickly, you'll have to be tacking and jibing all the time. You want to choose a boat that suits the sort of lake that you have. So at hunts, we have we have some fleets of boats, and I believe that in theory we're meant to get 6 regularly racing to get fleet status. Is that correct, John, Simon, Tom?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So last night at the AGM, the chap sitting on the Optimus near the red flag in the red jacket, I believe he was nominated as fleet captain of this class of boat, which is the Enterprise. So that's one of the double-handers that sailed at Hunts, and that's a good one to sail there because it's a moderate speed boat. I believe that the PY is 1122, and it's it's a straightforward 2-sail boat, suits a small gravel pit, so it's a great boat for sailing at Hunts. Okay, I have no idea what order these pictures are coming up in. Okay, so this is a Bite C2. This has become really popular with the women on the water because it's a great boat for lighter people, and the reason why that is, you can see it's got quite a big sail area, but you can also see that the mast is bent right off to one side, so it's a very controllable rig. Even a light person can sail this quite well because you can depower the rig by bending the mast like that, and you can see that the leach is open. If you look by GBR, you can see the telltale streaming, and they're losing some of the wind by putting twist into that sail. So it's a good boat for lighter people at Hunts. There's also a C1, which Jane has, which is even better for lighter people because it's the same boat, just a slightly smaller sail. And the PY, the C1 has a different PY. The PY for the Bite is 1135. Okay, next boat, please, Nikki.
Yeah, the C1 for your information is 1215.
Yeah, thanks, John. Okay, so I'm sure Mick won't mind me saying this is Mick in his former days. So this is a Hunts boat. This is a Phantom, and it's a great boat for larger people. It doesn't, when I say larger people, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are overweight. It might mean that you're tall, and I've had a Phantom in the past because I'm quite a tall person and I am bordering on overweight. So this is a good boat to sail at Hunts, and I believe they don't have fleet status anymore, but there are still some there. Is that right, guys?
Yeah, there's about 3 or 4.
Yeah. And the Phantom, it's got a big sail area because obviously it's sailed by bigger people, so they counterbalance it nicely. Their PY is, I think John just mentioned it actually, is 1004.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay, so you can see from this that there's boats to suit all shapes and sizes. A lot of people would argue that there are too many classes of boat. Okay, so Graham, I hope that these look familiar to you. I'm assuming that Graham said something there.
Sorry, those ones have got rudders.
Have you got your rudder yet, Graham?
Yes, I've fixed it.
Excellent, good. So this is a relatively new class of boat. This is the D0D because it's made by Devotti. No idea why they called it a D0, but they did.
But Vanessa, your face has gone. For some reason, it's been blacked out.
It could be because I put my hand over the webcam. User error. So this D0, these are made of the hull. You can see it's quite a modern shape. It's made of foam, epoxy and carbon. It's got a carbon mast and a carbon boom. So it's a very lightweight boat, and it's quite a speedy boat. The PY for this one is 1029, if I'm reading my handwriting correctly. Yeah. And it's the class will tell you that it's suitable across a broad range of sailing weights. And indeed, I think that we've got a sailor at Hunts that sails at about 100 kilos, and then you can go down to about 70 to 75 kilos. So yeah, a good choice of boat for somebody who wants something sporty. Okay, this is the Laser. So we've got a fleet of these at Hunts, very popular, very straightforward, simple boat, quite painful to sit in for a long period of time if you're getting old like I am. There's 3 different types of Laser. There's Laser, Laser Radial and Laser 4.7. So you can change the rig if it's too windy or too light for you, but I believe we have special rules to so I think if you sail in a series in one rig, I'm getting a bit confused here. John, can you remember what the rules are for changing rigs in the Laser?
I think if it's in the handicap racing, they have to sail it as a different boat if they change the rig, whereas in the class racing, they can all sail together, and whichever rig they've got on.
Okay, right. So you've got the choice if you've got a Laser. You can either go up and down through the rigs according to the conditions, or you can stay with a rig and just, you know, not manage quite so well when it's windy or light. There's Laser Radial is the women's Olympic class, and a Laser 4.7 is a youth class, a junior class for going up into squad training and racing. So it's a very multi-purpose boat, famous absolutely all over the world. Okay, just having a small dog crisis here, but I think we're ready for this. Okay, Optimist. I don't think we've got anybody in this group that sail Optimist, but the guys that you can see in this picture are Ben Knights and Terry Hacker. The Optimist is a fantastic boat for getting young people up into racing regularly. So these guys are both doing really well in the 420 now, and Terry did really well in the Optimist when he was this size. Okay, next one. I can't see the next one. Oh, God, there it is. Okay, so here we've got the Lightning. Again, this is a typical, I think Sarah's got a Lightning, haven't you, Sarah? I'm assuming she's answering.
That's a very old one.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you can see here that we've got quite a broad range of ages. It's a great boat for lots of different weights, as you can see in the picture. There's lots of different sizes of people, again, because it's got a very flexible rig, and it's quite easy to modify that rig to suit the conditions. And there is a smaller rig available, but a lot of people actually just use a smaller sail when it's windy. So the Lightning is a bit of a what we call a bandit. It's got a PY of 1162, which makes it quite a slow boat, but in the right hands, it can actually be sailed really quickly and do really well, because the handicap might be considered by some to be a little unfair.
There's a small rig, but unusually it has the same PY.
That's because, and the reason for that is because nobody really races with the small rig, so there just aren't enough numbers to create another PY. Okay. Okay, this is a Supernova, popular class at Hunts. Not sure what to say about it really. It's been modified quite a lot recently from being a slightly old-fashioned looking boat to something that looks a bit more modern. They'll probably crucify me if they knew I'd said that. PY is 1077, so it's a good sort of mid-range single-hander. I would think for slightly heavier people, but I don't honestly know. It's very adjustable. It's got adjustable shrouds, adjustable lowers. So you can see it's got, if you look at the front of the boat, you can see that you can actually adjust the forestay while you're sailing. So to probably fair to say, to get the best out of that boat, you have to have a good idea of how that rig works. Okay, next one. Oh, here we go. Here's David in quite an old Solo. Simon, would you like to talk about the Solo?
Yeah, I'll have a chat about the Solo. I've been sailing a Solo now for probably about 8-9 years or so, and I switched to a Solo because it's a very comfortable boat to sit in. I have problems with my knees, and I find the Solo for a single hander is very comfortable. All of the sheet loads when on the main sheet is it's not heavy, it's all quite light, and that they work pretty well together. The thing I like with the Solo as well is the class racing. We've got quite a strong Solo class at Hunts, and I like to go off and do open meetings as well. And there's a very active and competitive open meeting circuit across the country. And at big events, you'll often get 80 plus boats racing, which makes it quite exciting. And they're being sailed now by quite a lot of younger people as well. It was generally thought an old man's boat. But now you're getting quite a wide range of people sailing them, and you don't have to be heavy to sail one. I'm about 68 kilos. I'm at the light end sailing these, so when it gets windy, I struggle a bit to be competitive. But they'll take a broad weight range, so I like it. I'm very comfortable with it. It's a nice, comfortable boat to sail.
I think too, it's useful what Simon said there about there being lots of class racing. There's some of the meetings that Solos will have massive turnouts. I did Mark Lane for one quite recently, and it was really interesting that at every layer of the fleet, the boats were quite close together, so there was always somebody in that fleet to race against. And what that often means is that the sailmakers themselves are taking part in the racing. So they're constantly improving the rig and the boat so that everybody can enjoy great racing in them. Okay, thanks, Simon.
Okay, so one more point I'd say there, Vanessa, it just makes me think as well. The thing to think when you're looking at boats is that the slower the boat, generally the closer the racing. The faster the boat, the fleets can get spread out quite a way. But with a slower boat, you're generally never far away from someone. So it's another point to consider if you're looking to buy something.
I don't know. Simon always seems a long way away from me.
Okay, I think so. I'll say what I was going to say in a moment. So what we've got here is an Aero 7. This is another class that's coming to popularity at Hunts. The Aero 7, I haven't written down, yes I have. PY is 1065, so it's quite a quick boat. A lot of the reason for that is that the hull that you can see only weighs something like 30 kilos. So you've got quite a big sail, and it's not having to work very hard at pulling the boat along. It's mostly transferring that power into forward motion. So it's quite a good choice. There's 3 rigs that you can choose from. There's the 7, the sort of medium people. There's the 9, the heavier people. Not many people have chosen that option. And then there's the 5, which is a really popular junior type or lighter person, and also a very popular boat for females. So yeah, it's a good versatile all-rounder. Okay, Topper, not much to say about that one. We all know what the Topper is like. It's a really good junior single-hander, and I think one of the things that I regret seeing is that when I started sailing, a lot of smaller adults sailed the Topper, and now they don't because they're mostly just seen as a junior boat. As you can see, it's quite a sophisticated little boat, and it's almost indestructible. So a great boat for smaller people. This is the last one. Okay, so these aren't great representatives of the Merlin Rocket, because I think this picture's actually from one of the Merlin Rocket open meetings. We have a special open meeting every year for vintage boats, and these are vintage Merlin Rockets. But They are actually, and I believe there are one or two that sail quite regularly at hunts. The reason why they're good boats for hunts is that symmetric spinnaker, which is so much more versatile than an asymmetric spinnaker. When you're sailing horses that have got short reaching legs or short running legs, having something that you can move around as much as a symmetric spinnaker is a real bonus. Whereas an asymmetric, if you haven't got the perfect point of sail for your asymmetric spinnaker, then you are going to struggle and potentially end up sailing a lot further than is a competitive thing to do. So I think it's boats like the Merlin Rocket, there's another boat, GP14, things like that with a small symmetric spinnaker. I believe there's a boat called the Lark, which has started sailing at hunts. Those are all great boats for sailing on our small piece of water. Oh, I think Nikki's found me a better picture. Okay, so is that John Campo? No, that's a more modern Merlin Rocket, and again you can see it's managing to sail just as fast as an asymmetric boat, but if it needed to bear away, turn away from the wind onto the run, it would be able to do that, whereas an asymmetric boat wouldn't. So much more versatile. Okay, so that's that I believe is the end of my short tour of Hunt's boats. Does anybody want to add anything or ask anything about them?
You missed out the mirror.
Oh, heaven forbid.
But also the Fever. I think those are two. The Mirror is a really great boat because you can sail it as an adult with a young child, and that's great. And the Fever is great because it's a good double-hander for juniors. And we have.
It's interesting.
Go ahead.
It's interesting that you mentioned those two in the same breath, really, Tom, because effectively the Fever sort of supplanted the Mirror in terms of youth double-handed racing, didn't it? And yet the Fever, as I said, suffers from the problem that you can't always sail it in the direction that you want to go because it's an asymmetric rather than a symmetric. What I notice about the Mirror, especially at hunts, is that there are loads tucked away around the boat park, and they're all really popular parent and child boats or single-handed adult boats. And I think they're really great boats for that sort of sailing.
But you can also race them, and one of the things about the Mirror is even quite old ones can be relatively competitive.
Yeah, and again they have an adjustable PY, don't they, for whether they are single-handed or modern.
Well, sort of.
Not single-handed or modern, single-handed or double-handed. And again, because it's an old class, you can get a CBRDA PY on one. There you go, look. I'm sure they've got buoyancy aids under those jackets.
And there it's a gaff rigged, a gunter rigged boat, but they can have Bermuda masts, a one-piece mast now.
Yeah, a lot of people are finding the Bermuda masts is a lot easier to control rather than the gaff. They are now.
Yeah, and well, actually, I mean, one of the main reasons they went over to the one-piece mast was because the wooden gaffs that were racing gaffs, so were carefully made and thin enough to bend, started to cost as much as a one-piece mast.
I'm just noticing that the one in the photograph, which was on the cover of Classic Boat, has rigged up an interesting horse arrangement for the photographer, clearly.
Yeah, it looks like something that could chop your head off, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think they've got that quite right. Can we go back to the Fever picture? So yeah, you can see this is a typical sort of RS marketing shot of the Fever, and you can see, you know, it's a very exciting and glamorous looking boat for young people. And the other advantage of this is that they are almost indestructible because they're made of rotomolded plastic. And again, boat maintenance is something to think about when you're buying a boat. You don't want to spend all your time scraping boats in the cold like I do when you could be sailing. So sometimes buying something that's easy to maintain is a good thing.
And we do have 3 club Fevers at the club.
And they were used during the last series that we've raced.
Yeah. No, they are proving quite popular. I think.
Okay, I think I think I've finished there. So
excellent. Thanks very much, Vanessa. That was good. Has anyone got any questions on that or anything to add? Thinking of John and Simon particularly.
I don't think so. I think it covers a good range of boats that are an option. The only thing I would add with a symmetric spinnaker boat as opposed to an asymmetric boat, it tends to give more for the crew to do. Having crew boats myself, and I prefer to crew than helm. With a symmetric spinnaker, it's a lot more involvement for the crew.
Definitely.
Although the spinnakers are generally harder to handle than an asymmetric spinnaker, so it's a bit of a decision as to what you want to go for. But certainly at Hunts, a symmetric spinnaker boat is much better because you can go dead downwind with it.
Well, I actually think that most people in this group have got their own boats, but it is really a good idea if you can to try a boat before you buy. You know, a boat is quite an expensive investment, and you know, just going out and buying the first one you see is not a good idea. Going and asking someone if you can try, or asking advice in the boat park, and particularly at Hunts, Vanessa has all of those boats there, and I don't know how many there were, 20 or so, are all sailed at Hunts. But if you actually go down there, you will find that most of the boats that are racing are lasers and solos. Just a handful of classes.
I've got any of those.
Are sailed. And it's really quite good, even if you're in the handicap fleet, if there are a couple other boats of the same class for you to sail alongside, it's really good. And Vanessa is muted, but probably deliberately. Vanessa, do you know you're muted or?
No. She said she doesn't have most of those boats.
I don't have most of those. I don't have any of those boats, but I know when Graham was going through his process of buying his boat, he was able to borrow boats beforehand and choose. So yeah, there's always people who are happy to let you try things.
Can I just
Martin's
say?
Waving.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I've obviously only just joined the club back in, I don't know now, lost track of time at the moment. Obviously came in with a solo, and I used to sail lasers briefly when I was a lot younger. But obviously bought the solo because there was such a big fleet, and obviously speaking to Simon as well when I popped down before I bought. But obviously I've moved over to the solo, but having found out a lot more that P&B have their own demo boat, which they're more than welcome to apparently deliver to certain clubs for you to have a play in, which I didn't know, which I wish I'd found out. But also, obviously, there's quite a fleet, obviously, of solos, and that was my main reason why I picked the solo. So, and the other thing was, I just wanted to quick ask a question. With regards going back to the PY number, obviously you've got Simon's boat, which is fairly new, which is a GRP or a newer version, and then obviously I'm sailing a what I've been told is a piano. So is there a difference in those, as in the PY number?
No, there isn't. If you notice, we do have some wooden boats that sail on the same PY, and they're normally competitive with us, and they stay with us quite a lot of the time. They're older ones as well.
That's fine.
I think
if I can add in there as well, there was a guy called Mike Gifford who was sailing at our club. He's moved away now, but he sailed a wooden solo, quite an old one, and was incredibly quick and very, very difficult to beat. So the good wooden solos, and yours is a beautiful example, are fine. They're good boats.
I think it's the old GRP ones that are particularly slow because they tend to be a bit heavy, but also they don't have the stiffness and can be quite slow.
Simon, is it correct that the class is actually doing something for older boats as well?
Yeah, they
Are they
have
not doing a special event for slightly older
they are
solos?
doing a special event at where is it? Is it Lee Sailing Club down near South End? They've got a fleet there of older solos, up to a certain number that people are buying to try to encourage the older circuit.
Yeah.
And also at some of the open meetings now, particularly the bigger open meetings for the solos, they are having a separate category for boats of a certain age and older, so they will be awarded their prizes as well. So you have a race within a race, if you like. So they're trying to encourage more of the older wooden boats out. I'm saying if they're looked after, that they are still very competitive. They're nice. So it's a way of encouraging more older boats on the water. It helps to keep the cost down. And I think the clubs that have embraced the older boats and stipulated you can't have a boat newer than X number, that's encouraged a lot of people to actually come into the class and offers very good value for money and again good close racing.
Great.
Right. If we've finished with this bit, and I think we probably have, I mean, we could go on talking about different boats forever, I think. But shall we, if we could get Simon to just give a sort of his view of how a race works at Hunts and, you know, what you'd be thinking of, I guess, as a beginner to go around the course.
Yep, sure. I can start off. I wrote a few quick notes earlier on today. I'll kind of brief this down a bit because if you're new to racing, there's so much that goes on and so a lot of little nuances that go on through the race. But basically, when I go out to race, first thing obviously is to get down in good time. Number of times I'm there chatting to people on the shore and then suddenly find out I'm late to get out on the water. So if you're going to get out and start a race, get out in good time, get yourself out there. Check the course beforehand. So you've got a pretty good idea of where you're going. So when I get out on the water, I check the start line. The start lines normally have a bias on them. It's better to start on one end of the line than the other. And there's various ways you can do that. I won't go into that at the moment, but once you get a bit more experienced and understand the angles of the wind and how a line has been set, you can try and position yourself at the right part of the line. It takes a bit of practice starting to get yourself in position at the right time. At Hunts, I tend to get myself pretty much where I want to be at which end of the line by 30 seconds before the start. A minute is better. And so you're nicely positioned. What you're looking for in the start is to have clean air. You want to try and have some room around you to maneuver. Ideally, you don't want any boats too close to leeward of you because that can slow you up. So I try and position myself in the right end of the line that I'm happy with and also try to get myself as much of a gap for boats around me as I possibly can. Ideally, you'd hit the start line at full speed when it comes. So with a sort of 5-6 seconds to go, if you can, you want to be fully powered up to hit the line and get ahead of everybody else. The key to getting around a course fast is clear air. If you can get a nice clean wind with no other boats ahead of you, around you, you'll do better. So what I do off the start line, and again, I've been racing for a long time to improve your results. The first 2 minutes after the start is the time when you have to work really, really hard. If it's windy, you've got to hike really hard to drive the boat, keep it as flat as possible. That way, if you can get a bit of advantage on the boats around you, so you generally always start on starboard. If you want to tack onto port, if there's a shift, if you can clear the other boats that are on starboard, then straight away you get a bit of a head start on them, a jump on them, and again you're keeping clear air. So I'm looking to work really hard those first couple of minutes off the start line and try and position myself as best I can approaching the windward mark. At Hunts, the wind is very shifty, so you're also trying to pick up the shifts, try and position yourself in the best place to get those shifts. We're talking about heading up and bearing away earlier. You'll be aware from the sailing you've done at Hunts that the wind is very variable. If you get quite a big header and have to bear away, ideally you'd want to tack. As soon as you can tack, you'll be on a lift and heading up on the other tack. And so by trying to work really hard after that start, that can help put you in a good position to get around the windward mark in a good place. So as I go up the beat, I'm keeping an eye on what boats are around me, how the fleet is developing. And as most of our racing is handicap racing, you have faster boats, slower boats. So you need to be aware of those sort of speed differences and who's going to be around. I try and position myself to come into the windward mark with room to manoeuvre if I need to. When there's a lot of boats about, obviously you've got to be aware of who's where, the rights of way with the rules. You can get very bogged down in the rules, but as long as you know just the few basic rules as to who has right of way, that's all you really need. If situations develop with the rules and you're not entirely sure, it's a bit ambiguous, I just try and keep out of the way, just try and keep clear and avoid any altercations with rules. So don't let the rules put you off. And you'll sometimes hear people shouting out on the water, all they're doing is slowing themselves down. So just get yourselves around the windward mark as soon as you can. When I approach the windward mark, I'll know roughly the angle for the next leg. It's usually a reach that we set at Hunts. The quickest way between the two buoys is pretty much a straight line, but then that depends if there's gusts coming down the water. Sometimes you want to head up to get into that gust sooner, and then when you get into that, then bear away. Some other considerations as to other boats that are around you as well. And again, with faster boats, if you happen to get round in front of a faster boat, that faster boat is almost certainly going to go past you. So sometimes if you're in a slower boat, it's best just to let that boat go by. Don't try and even defend into your position. Just let them go, get out of the way. And again, it's all about trying to keep the air as clean as possible to get down that leg as fast as you can. Coming up to a next mark, if it's a jibe mark onto another reach, for example, I'd be looking to try to get an inside overlap. Again, with the rules, I don't know how up you are up to speed with the rules, but at 3 boat lengths, if you've got an inside overlap on a boat, then they have to give you mark room to jibe round. And again, if I'm not sure about that, I'll often sort of bail out from that. I won't try and force my way to go inside. Just again, trying to avoid any conflict on the race course and just take a longer route, particularly with a faster boat, because they'll often be shooting away from you. If it's a boat of similar speed or the same class, I tend to raise my solo there, then I'll be fighting for my position a bit harder. So that's what I do down the reaches. Be aware of the other boats, try and pick up the gusts when you can, and just get yourself down that leg as fast as possible. Sometimes that means heading up to get into the wind. Sometimes if you get a good gust and you can bear away and sink down to leeward, that's good, because then when you approach the next mark, you can come in at a bit of a tighter angle, which tends to be faster. So all the time I'm looking at what boats are around, what the wind conditions are doing to get around the next mark. As I come up perhaps onto another beat, as I approach the mark, the quickest way to round up from an off-wind leg, either if that's a run or a reach, is to approach the mark from quite a wide angle to come in tight, because again, that moves you upwind. If you go in tight around the mark and come away, you drop down a boat length, maybe 2 boat lengths. So someone coming in wide and coming in tight, you will straight away be a bit further upwind of them, and again with clear air. So when I go around the course, this is what I'm looking to do all the time. Just try and keep clear air, try and make my mark roundings nice and clean, and just keep an eye on what other boats are around. When you do start racing, and particularly at Hunts, the courses are such that there's quite a lot of crossing of boats. So you do have to be aware of what other legs other boats are on and who has right of way. And as long as you're aware of that and keep your head out of the boat to see who's coming, because what you don't want to do is suddenly find yourself in a position where you've got to manoeuvre very quick. So if you can anticipate what's coming, who's where, who has right of way, then straight away that makes life a bit easier for you. And so I just work my way around the course, concentrating on what the wind's doing, keeping an eye on my competitors. Towards the end of the race, if you've got someone a boat similar speed to you or same class, you can think about covering them on the beats, which is essentially putting yourself upwind of them, and the air coming off of your sail will be what's known as dirty air, slows the boat down behind. And there's ways that you can affect other boats' performances as well. So that's another thing that kind of gets thrown into the mix. As you get more experience with racing, you learn all sorts of little gamesmanship, sort of dirty tricks that you can do to people to slow them down and just give you that little advantage. So I just keep working my way around the course, concentrating on what I'm doing, concentrating on the wind shifts. Sometimes one side of the beat is favoured. So you just get aware of that, see who's gaining. If someone's gained a lot by going a certain way, maybe next time on the next lap, it's worth thinking, oh, perhaps I should try that as well. The other thing I would do on the runs, when you're going dead downwind on a run, you play the wind shifts downwind the same as you do going upwind on a beat when you're close hauled. When you're trying to get onto a lift all the time, the same thing will apply when you're going downwind. So on a run, I will often jibe quite a lot to get myself into the pressure. If the wind has shifted, it's worth jibing back again. And it will be surprising how much you can gain off wind on a run by playing the shifts downwind. That's something that takes time to learn and to be aware of. But that's all part of the fun of it. And that's the main thing when you start racing, is to have fun. Try not to be intimidated by the other boats that are out there. There's a lot of experienced people who are racing. So don't be too intimidated. If you've got right of way and another boat is coming along, maintain your right of way. Boats you'll find will often come very close to you, but they will miss you. They'll be very aware of what they're going to do. And it might look like they're going to hit you, but they won't. And they'll sometimes come within a few inches of you, going across your transom if you're on starboard and they're on port on the beat. So don't be phased by that. It's perfectly normal. From my perspective as an experienced racer, I'd love to see people coming out and start racing. It's great. It's what we want. I really enjoy it, and it's an awful lot of fun. That's what I like to get out of it most of all. You know, if you're not having fun, don't do it. But it is good fun to do that, to pit yourself against other competitors. The handicap things, don't get too hung up about that either. Certain waters, certain wind conditions suit certain boats. In some conditions, one type of boat will do well. In other conditions, another boat will do well. That's just part and parcel of handicap racing. It's as fair as it can be. So when it comes to looking at PYs and what boats you've got, don't worry too much about it. Just get a boat that suits you and try and have some fun out there. That's about it. It takes time to build up these the feeling for it, the feeling for the wind shifts, positioning yourself in the right place when you're going on different legs of the course. But that just comes with time. My mantra is when people ask me about how to improve, it is just time on the water. The more time you spend on the water, the better you will get. And the more you do of it, the less you'll have to think about it. You'll find that your boat handling will become more natural. You shift every time you get a shift, a lift or a header, you'll find you'll naturally respond to it. And you'll get a feeling as to where you need to put yourself on the race course. So it takes time. It takes a long time to do this. So if you're interested in starting racing, I just suggest to go out there and do it. Don't be intimidated by it at all. Most of the experienced racers can tell if someone's relatively new to racing. They will steer around you. And I'll say, just be aware of a few basic rules, but don't worry too much about it. Just go out there and have some fun. That's what I would say, and I'll stop there. I've rabbited on long enough.
Thanks very much, Simon. That was fantastic. And I think the reason I wanted Simon to come and talk to us is, you know, he's one of the best racers at the club, and you know, just to show you that when you turn up, people like Simon are really pleased. It's not they want people to start racing, if we don't have new people starting racing, the racing will die out in a few years. We need a constant new blood. Sorry, Claire, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to concur on that because Emily and I have been going down on Sundays to do the races, and we're very, very new. We've got no idea what we're doing. We're just hanging at the back of it, but everybody's been really welcoming, and they've all, you know, tried to help us, giving us advice on things to do, and it's been great fun. So I'll definitely recommend to just give it a go, and hopefully, you know, with the training, we can be a bit less behind everybody now, but we'll see.
That's great to hear. You know, and if any of you are down there anytime, feel free to approach me, approach any of the other experienced racers. We all would like more people out on the water racing. We find it a lot of fun. It's what we really get a buzz about doing. And when you have a good race and you've had some good competition, it's great to come off the water feeling like that. So any questions, anytime about anything, do feel free to approach us. And personally, once we come out of COVID the other side, if any of you wanted to go out in a two-man boat to have a race, I'm quite happy to go out and talk you around the race course, either helming or crewing. Perfectly happy to do that and give you a few pointers along the way. That there's nothing better, no amount of shore training, classroom theory can replicate being out on the water. And when you're in the boat and you can tell someone what you're intending to do and why you're intending to do it, your learning and understanding will be so much more enhanced by doing so. So hopefully when we're out the other side of COVID and we can get back to sailing two-man boats again, if anybody wants to go and do a race, I'm more than happy to take them out.
Thanks, Simon. So I think we were going to have a sort of question and answer to see if there's any. This will be the last virtual race training, and we will try and have a real on the water session next week. Is that right, Vanessa? Are you okay for that?
She's mute.
She's mute. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll just try. I've just looked at the weather forecast, and at the moment it doesn't look too bad next week, but that's quite a long way ahead. Are there any questions for any of us?
Can I ask a really basic question? Is how do you keep track of how many times you go round? Do you just keep counting your laps?
Yes.
Sorry, it's a really stupid question. I'm just thinking, I'm sure I'll lose track.
No, that's not stupid at all, because so often most of the races at Hunts we set courses with a lot of laps, 10 laps or something, and we nearly always shorten. So when you're coming up, generally around the leeward mark up towards where the race will finish on the finish line, you'll hear the hoots, a flag will go up, and the course is being shortened. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes if a race officer sets a course with 4 or 5 laps, you need to know that, because often when you're on a beat, you wouldn't necessarily go through the finish line. So if you haven't counted how many laps you've done and you come round, you might not go through the finish line.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get finished. You'd have to go round again until you finally went through that finish line. So it's not a daft question at all. And I've seen this at major championships where people haven't kept track of how many legs of the course they should be doing, and they carry on sailing when they should have gone off towards a finish line. So it's a very good point to raise.
Also, if you're in a slower boat, there is a possibility you will do less laps than the leader. If you've been lapped by them, they'll be shortened on the average lapping. You'll be average lapped if you do less laps.
And the other thing that can catch people out is if there are 2 fleets racing, that one fleet can be finishing, but they might be sending the other fleet round for another lap. So you can have a boat just ahead of you, which apparently gets a hoot at the finishing line, and you go through and you don't get a hoot, which probably means they haven't finished you. It can get quite interesting. Although, to be fair, the race box normally goes and sends the safety boat after you if you've obviously made a mistake.
Yeah, I think we've done that to you, Claire, on a couple of occasions. We've come and said you've actually finished.
Yeah, no, that's happened to us, but there's always someone to tell you, where you're at. It's the same before the start as well. Sometimes I go around and I'm a bit lost. I'm not sure if I'm 3 minutes or 6 minutes or when we're going, and there's always someone to help you and say, no, don't worry, you're 3 minutes away, you're next. So it's fine.
But even the experienced racers do that. It's quite common for people to be at the start line asking, which is my start?
Especially when we weren't using flags.
Any more questions?
It's a 3-minute start process, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The only time we use the 5-4-1 go is open meetings.
And well, and not all open meetings either. So some open meetings we go and I'm thinking CBRDA, we've gone and put the races on Sunday alongside the club races. And when I've been the race officer for that, I've done them all on the 3 minute, so as not to confuse people.
Yeah, normally with club racing it is 6 and 3. Sorry.
Any other questions? Stupid questions?
Yeah, I'll ask anything, no matter how stupid you might think they are. Just do chuck in a question of anything at all, anything you might be unsure of, want to know about. Just shout.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't, whatever you do, be put off if someone shouts at you on the water.
No.
They're probably psyched up and they aren't aware of who you are or what you are. And they might shout, but don't be put off by the shouting.
Yeah, that's a very good point, John, because in the heat of the moment, some people will do that, wouldn't necessarily be aware of who's around them. Most of us experienced racers should, but don't be put off by it. And if you come ashore and you're not sure what's happened with regards to one of the rules or whatever, or why someone might have yelled, just come and ask any of us, and we'll more than happily explain the situation and what you should have done, what you shouldn't have done. So don't worry about that. Just get out on the water and race.
So people can see me.
This might be a really stupid question. My network went down just as Vanessa was talking about aero, so it's taken me a long time to get back connected. So unfortunately, I missed all of Simon's talk. How would I get hold of I can see that this is being recorded. How would I actually get hold of that recording?
I will send it to you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Could you send it to me too, Tom? Because I've missed quite a few bits.
Oh yeah.
Sally wants a copy.
Yeah, I know. And Jane has disappeared because she was having difficulty lip reading, so I've got to send her one as well. But I normally send her the copy.
Simon.
Yeah.
When you go sort of to other lakes and meetings, is that sort of something that other people can do? You just sort of sign up, log in?
Yes, and anybody can do it. Most open meetings of small clubs like Hunts, yes, anybody can just turn up. You just turn up and off you go and race. Some of the bigger events like Grafton and Rutland, you tend to have to enter online beforehand. But most solo opens, particularly in the eastern region, there's quite a good active circuit of clubs. You literally turn up, pay over your 10 or 15 quid and off you go and have a day's racing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, and it's really good fun when you do that. When you go around the circuit, you get to meet people from other clubs. One of the reasons I do as much racing as I do is the social side of it. It's a big part of it for me, and it's very good fun to go and do that and meet up with other people. And it improves your racing no end. The more you do it, and particularly against better sailors, the sharper and quicker you become. So yes, you can just turn up and join in.
I should probably try that next year.
That'd be great. That'd be great if you can do that.
Are there very many people at Huntingdon of my kind of age group? I know Tom was saying that you need young blood. Well, unfortunately, I've come to this somewhat late. Are there any? I mean, I know Roger, but he's the only guy that I know. Are there others?
I'm older than everybody.
Well, it depends what you mean. I mean, I'm not that far off your age, am I? And John Coughlin.
You look incredibly young.
You've got Graham Kirkup, Graham Sennett. You've got a large number of people who are in the older age range.
I'm old.
Oh, and Sally's
I'm
got-
looking on a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. I mean, we want people of all ages, of course. It is true that we do lack sometimes the sort of 20, 30-year-olds.
Okay, I'm 21.
Not your mental age, though. That's the trouble.
6.
Just an aside comment, I do like Claire and Martin's backdrop. Brilliant.
Thank you. That's the Isle of Arran, that is. And Hatton's 42.
Yeah. Where Claire is, the tide's out.
Yeah, I'm in Vendée in France.
Just am I muted?
No, you're not. We can hear you, Vanessa.
Can you hear me?
We can.
No, I was just going to say what Simon was saying about the local circuits and so on. It's worth joining the class association. For some open meetings, you have to be a member. For some, you don't. But your class association is the best source of information for events about your boat, and also a lot of racing and tuning information as well. So all boats will have a class association, which is just basically a club for that sort of boat. So that's worth looking out for too.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Vanessa. And I mean, the Solar Association, I think it was alluded to earlier, that P&B having a boat that can be taken to different clubs. The Solo Class Association, that's part of that. If the club wanted to have a solo there for a weekend, then that could be arranged for anybody to step in and give it a try. And that'll be a nice new shiny plastic boat as well. So it's worth joining your class associations. There's a lot of information that's available. It helps support the class. It helps the class to thrive and survive and arrange open meetings and championships. So it's well worth it. It's not too expensive.
Do we know if races are going to start again from next Sunday?
Almost certainly. We haven't made the decision yet, but we are going to have a meeting on Monday. And I can't conceive that we won't start.
I think.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
I've read through all the paperwork, Claire, and even in Tier 3, people are still able to go and do club racing. So I just can't imagine why we wouldn't, really.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and we probably won't have almost certainly won't have the changing rooms open.
No.
Still, but I mean, it'll be almost the same as it was before this last lockdown.
But colder.
Yeah.
A lot colder.
Fortunately.
On that point, that's another good thing to raise there. Having the right clothing. If you're comfortable in the boat, you'll enjoy it a lot more. So it's worth investing in some good sailing kit, and there's some great kit out nowadays to keep you nice and warm. So if you can, it's worth investing in some nice sailing kit.
Bear in mind now the club rules state that you must wear a wetsuit or a dry suit.
Yeah, but you would be a complete lunatic to sail without a wetsuit or dry suit at this time of year.
I did start many years ago without that equipment.
So I've sailed at Christmas without and bitterly regretted it.
Yeah, I capsized on Boxing Day with ordinary clothes on.
I was thinking of that occasion in the cam on Boxing Day.
There's lots of Black Friday deals about at the moment. No excuse for it.
I'm going to buy my dry suit today. What is there a brand of dry suit you recommend? I'm going to buy it.
I think
make sure you get a breathable one.
Breathable, okay.
Breathable, yes.
I do know that if you, I went to P&B over, which is in Northampton, and they've got, hopefully they'll be open probably next week, but they've got all the suits there. They've got a ladies and a gents sections, and they've got the Mustos, they've got the Gills, they've got the Gulls, They've got a lot of kit there, and the guys in there are really, really helpful.
What's it called?
It's called P&B.
Pinnell and Backs.
And I asked for a discount as well. I know the guys at P&B very well, particularly Dave Wade, who's now running the sort of sales side of things. So don't be afraid to ask for a discount. Tell him I told you so.
Okay.
I got a discount because I said I was part of the club. They're also they're very well stocked as well. So
another reason to join your class association. As a member of Solo and Fireball class associations, anything I order from P&B, I get an additional discount.
Okay. Good God, I never knew that. I should try that.
Ah, yes.
Because I am a member of the class association. So with sailing kit, it is quite important to get the right size, and so it is quite good to go somewhere to try it on. It is difficult. I mean, the closest place used to be at Grafham, but John T's closed now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So Pinnell and Backs is probably
Yes.
one of the closest.
I think the other thing I would also say with the dry suit in itself, it won't keep you warm. It will simply keep you dry. So you do need to have layers underneath it.
Yeah, a dinner jacket works.
You can't just wear a dry suit and just skimpy stuff underneath and expect to be warm. It doesn't work. Yeah.
the other place that's quite good is it's quite a bit more of a trek, but it's Fox's Marina down in Ipswich.
Yeah.
They've got a good range of. It's not just a big boat sailing place. It also does the dinghies and everything. And components wise, it's a very good shop.
I mean, I'll just chip in as well on the dry suit thing as well. It's best to get a size of boot, one up from your normal boot as well, because your feet will be thicker in the rubber of a dry suit and socks underneath. So it's worth getting a pair of boots, one, maybe even two sizes up. You need to try them to make sure they fit comfortably. If they're too tight, your blood flow stops, you get cold feet. So it's always worth getting a pair of boots that fit comfortably and allow your blood to flow normally.
I don't know if this is just wetsuits or whether it applies to dry suits as well. But I found, I mean, I'm obviously not a standard size or shape, but every single manufacturer had a different sizing scheme. So I couldn't just say, right, I'm this size and then start Googling. I had to look at gull and then look at my chest and all those measurements, and that would say this size. Another manufacturer will be completely different. In the end, I just guessed. And I was lucky.
Another good place to try is Rooster Sailing. They do a good range of clothing. They're very knowledgeable. You can just give them a call and have a chat if you're unsure about sizing, and they can probably sort you out and help you there. I've always found Rooster to be very, very good.
That's online?
Yeah, that's online. Yeah, if you just Google Rooster Sailing, you'll find them.
Real cheap.
The other good thing, they'll send you a packet of sweets with everything you order as well.
The other place in the normal year would be the dinghy show in early spring. I mean, I don't know. Is it going to? Do we know if it's going to run this year?
No, it's a virtual one. It's virtual.
So I mean, that's obviously no good. But in a normal year, it's a really good place to go and get bits for your boat, but also clothes, because you can try them on there.
The other good place is the wetsuit outlet.
Yes.
They're very good, very competitive pricing, but you have to be a bit, because they're very cheap there, they go very quickly. So if you spot something you want, unfortunately you need to grab it because it goes like, literally so fast. But they're very helpful and they offer free delivery and free returns. So I tend to do it with my kids with their wetsuits for going surfing every other year because they need normally new wetsuits. And we order a couple of them, different versions, different sizes, and then send back the ones we don't want. And very, very, very good.
So Are there any more questions? Because it's getting on to 11:30. Well, gone 11:30 now. Probably enough for this last session. Any more questions? Anything at all?
Just a bit of a side question. What kind of boat covers would you suggest? I think they're PVC and breathable ones. Which ones last longest?
It's got a laser 2000. Just to,
Yeah, for a GRP boat. Yeah.
Can I just come in on that? I've just literally bought one for my solo, and it was from Sun and Sail.
Sorry?
It was from a company called Sun and Sail.
On sale. Okay.
And they do about three different versions. One's the PVC, but I bought a breathable one because I've got a wooden boat. So, but I thought the one that came with my boat when I bought it, I thought was a good one. But after one day of rain, I went to my boat and it was full. So yeah, unfortunately the breathable ones, you have to look after them. So I bought a brand new one. But I've also bought one that actually covers right around the gunwales as well, and right down quite a long way down the hull. So just protects it even more.
Oh, that's very helpful.
I think with a GRP laser 2000, you don't actually need a breathable cover.
I would actually disagree, Tom, because I maintain the school 2000s over at Kimbolton, and we've had issues where the covers have been touching the decks and they've caused something like osmosis. So it is worth getting a breathable cover, and if you are careful about your boat, I would also get a deep-sided one, because what we found is that we've got two different colours of blue on the sides of the boat. So the colour that's protected by the cover is the original cover, and then the sun has faded the colour quite substantially. So you can buy deep-sided covers for that. Martin, did you mean rain and sun?
Sorry, rain and sun, yes.
Yeah, I think it's hard to beat a rain and sun cover, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's what I've got on my boat, and breathable ones, very good.
Yeah.
And UV resistant, they last quite a long
Yeah.
time and will protect the boat very well, particularly if it gets cold and icy. You don't really want anything wet,
Yeah.
frozen on the deck. So I'd agree with that, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very, very helpful, and I think it says on the website, I can't remember what it was. Mine arrived within about 3 days.
Yeah. And they're good at pricing as well. They're always well priced. So.
Very well priced. Everyone's gone quiet.
Shall we call it a day then and reconvene in a week's time, hopefully at Hunt's? What time are we going to start?
Yes.
Do you think next week, Vanessa?
If we do reconvene at Hunt's, we will still have to do an online briefing, because we can't have people standing too close together. So we could have a chat about what we're going to do. If anybody's got any exercises they particularly want to do, let us know. But I would suggest probably starting and going upwind would be the most sensible options. And then we could expect, if we do the briefing beforehand, and we could expect to be going onto the water for about 10. I'm just wondering if it's likely to be misty. There's no point in starting much earlier, but if we're rigged and ready to launch at 10, that would be great.
Whether we've got any wind at that time.
And if you have got,
fill in.
well, that's what I'm saying, John. But if we leave it too late, then we start to drift into the afternoon. So if it's not windy, we'll go and do something like roll tacking or whatever. So there's always something.
It is forecast to be some wind next week.
Yeah. So if you've got requests for exercises that you'd like to do, let us know. And yeah, if you aim to be ready to go on the water for 10 on the Saturday, then that would be great.
You go to
Yeah, we'll send an email round.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll send an email round on probably on Tuesday after we've decided definitely we're opening. I mean, I can't conceive that we're not, but
Yeah.
Does anyone in the group at the moment plan to go to Hunts on Wednesday?
I think John Coppenall's going to be there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I shall hopefully be there on Wednesday morning till about lunchtime, probably.
Fantastic. If you see a man drowning in a P0, could you sail to and pull him out, please?
Yeah, I might be in a launch though, so it might be a bit more difficult, but I should be able to pick you up.
You're not actually, John, you're not supposed to allow sailing when the launch is out, just to be a complete killjoy. Graham, I know that you're really used to sailing on your own and so on, but I think you need to just treat things with an extra amount of caution at the moment, because it is very cold and you are a beginner, and the last time you capsized wasn't the best recovery I've ever seen. I'm just sounding like a real killjoy here, but I don't want you to drown and I don't want you to get hypothermic. So I just think that free sailing at this time of year is very different from free sailing in the summer.
And if you do go out, just make sure you have a masthead float on.
Right. I certainly wouldn't go out in the D0 if there was no one else around.
Okay, cool. That's great. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Will WOW happen the week after? Will that all be back up and running?
That is the plan, definitely.
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Okay.
that'll be a time for D0 sailing, Graham.
And cake.
Okay, so shall we just say a final thank you to Simon for spending the morning with us? That's fantastic, and we'll see you hopefully next week. Have you got anything else to add, Vanessa?
Nope. It's just been a good fun series, I think. So well done for everyone for sticking it out online.
Can I just say thank you for listening, and again, I just reiterate, any questions anytime, then do just approach me or any other experienced racers at the club. We're more than happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Well, thanks very much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. It's really helpful.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Patch.
Bye all.